The Mafia boss married the file girl. Then she found the 17-minute lie. Nora Whitaker's signature was worth $18 million, although she had never put it on the claim. By noon, the company that called her the file girl had locked her out. Her brother had vanished, and Matteo Vescari was waiting with a marriage contract and 36 hours left to save the Baltimore docks. He thought Nora was frightened, replaceable, and useful enough to keep close. Nora thought he was another powerful man mistaking leverage for consent. Then, she found one impossible detail in the warehouse file. The post-loss inspection had been signed 17 minutes before the fire alarm. Someone had prepared the claim before the damage existed, and the only person who understood what that meant was the woman they had refused to let speak. Matteo offered protection and a way out of the fraud carrying her name. Nora gave him 3 conditions and warned him that if he wanted her help, he would have to hear the truth before his empire learned the cost of ignoring her. The conference room doors clicked shut in Nora Whitaker's face at 11:42 on Thursday morning. Through the frosted glass, she saw Martin Hale lift her binder toward 12 people who had never learned her name. 2 hours earlier, Nora had shown him the alarm log, inspection report, and lock record. A post-loss inspection could not be completed before the loss. Martin had thanked her and sent her outside. Now his voice carried through the glass. My team identified a sequencing concern. His team. When the receptionist offered Nora coffee, she said, "No, thank you. Apparently I'm not qualified to drink it without supervision." Martin emerged 27 minutes later. Behind him came 3 attorneys, 2 insurance executives, and Matteo Vescari. He wore a charcoal suit, silver showing at his temples. His gaze moved over Nora's plum blouse, collar, and junior badge. He saw the baby face, the soft figure, the low title, and decided what she was before he spoke. "This is the analyst," Martin laughed. "She organizes the exhibits. She doesn't make decisions." Nora waited for Matteo to challenge the lie. He did not. He held out a page. Then why was her login used on the guarantee? Her electronic signature sat beneath language, pledging the company to every repair invoice connected to warehouse 14. Nora read it twice. The signature came from a report she had signed 6 months earlier. But this page had never passed through her department. No routing number. No secondary approval. No version stamp. "I didn't authorize this." Martin stepped closer. "Nora, be careful." She looked at him. That advice would have helped before someone committed fraud with my name. Matteo's attention sharpened. "Your brother's company received the repair subcontract. Evan had claimed he was doing bookkeeping for a marine contractor. He had not mentioned $18 million. Matteo said, "Your brother left his apartment at 6 this morning. His phone was found in a parking garage." Her pulse jumped. "Did you take him?" "No. Someone moved faster than I did." Martin began talking about suspension. But Nora watched Matteo. "What do you want?" she asked. "A private conversation. With my attorney." "You do not have one." "Then wait while I get one." Surprise crossed his face. Martin hissed her name. But Matteo lifted one hand, and the hallway went quiet. "Call counsel. Call the police. By the time either arrives, your employer will have documented that your credentials authenticated a fraudulent guarantee. Your brother will still be missing, and the insurer will suspend every Vescari-linked claim attached to your queue." Nora looked through the glass. The executives were already deciding how much of the collapse belonged to the employee with the smallest title. "That isn't an invitation," she said. "No," Matteo replied. "It's the situation." His car took them 6 blocks to an office above a tug services company overlooking the harbor. His attorney placed a thin contract between them. Matteo did not pretend the offer was normal. His family trust required him to be legally married before his 40th birthday, 36 days away, and required Atlantic freight to remain solvent, insured, and operational. The fraudulent claim could strip coverage from his terminals and transfer temporary control to his cousin Adrian. Matteo wanted a 90-day civil marriage. Nora would keep a separate room. Retain independent counsel. Continue her job, if reinstated. And review the compromised claims network. In return, Matteo would produce records proving her signature was copied, protect her from retaliation, and guarantee that no one in his organization touched Evan. "You need a wife," Nora said, "and the person who understands the files." "Yes. So the woman being framed should be grateful for the chance to become useful to you. Our interests overlap." Nora leaned back. "Men like you always rename leverage when you want it to sound clean." Matteo slid a pen across the table. "Your brother may have helped them. He may also be the next person they silence. I can keep him alive long enough to learn which is true." Nora thought of every time she had paid Evan's rent or explained away another failure. She thought of Martin presenting her work while she sat outside, and of the forged signature that had turned her invisibility into a weapon. "And if I refuse," Matteo answered quietly, "you walk out. I do not stop you. By sunset, your company suspends you. The insurer freezes the renewals. And whoever used your name knows you are unprotected." He believed the unlocked door made it a clean choice. Nora knew a choice could still be poisoned. She pulled the contract toward her, but left the pen untouched. 3 conditions. You do not track my personal phone. You do not hold my identification, bank access, or apartment keys. My brother answers for what he did. But you do not use him to control me. Matteo said nothing. 3rd, this marriage gives you no rights to my body. No touching without permission. No public performance beyond what I approve. A ring does not change consent. Matteo asked. "Anything else?" Nora met his eyes. "I choose my lawyer, and every document I review keeps my name on it." Something shifted in his expression. Not respect yet, but uncertainty. He wrote the conditions into the margin and initialed each one. "You are precise for someone Martin Hale called a file girl." Nora picked up the pen. "That is why Martin Hale still has a department." She signed once, in her own hand. Matteo countersigned, then pushed a second folder toward her. Inside were 3 notices issued that morning. 1 terminal had lost provisional coverage. 2 warehouse claims had been suspended. A lender wanted proof of insurance within 48 hours. Nora checked the claim numbers and saw the pattern beneath the forged guarantee. All 3 files had passed through her queue before Martin removed her from them. All 3 had been reassigned to outside adjusters approved by Adrian Vescari. Matteo watched her. "What do you see?" It was the first honest question he had asked. Nora pointed to a reference number. "A system failing exactly where someone made sure I could no longer touch it." His phone vibrated. He read the message. "Warehouse 14's original packet is gone." Nora closed the folder. "Then stop looking for the person who forged my name. Start looking for the person who knew what I would notice if the original stayed on file." Matteo studied the claim numbers as if the files had become less predictable now that Nora had spoken. "How many people knew you were reviewing Warehouse 14? He asked. "Martin. 2 supervisors. The audit inbox. And anyone with administrator access to routing." Nora tapped the page. The signature was copied. The routing was manipulated. And the original packet was removed. "Those are 3 permissions unless someone high enough could borrow all of them." Matteo ordered a quiet review of archive access. "Outside adjuster approvals." And every claim reassigned from Nora's queue during the past 6 months. Then he said, "You are coming with me." Nora closed the folder. "Where?" "Your office." I was suspended. Then today is a good day to learn whether they meant it. By the time they returned, Martin Hale had removed Nora's name from the directory and disabled her badge. Matteo's presence reopened the doors faster than any appeal could have. The claims floor went silent when Nora walked in beside him. Martin appeared from his office, smiling too quickly. "Mr. Vescari, this is unnecessary. We are handling the internal issue." Nora glanced at the empty space where her nameplate had been. "Efficiently," Matteo said. "Restore her access." Martin's smile tightened. "Counsel advised suspension pending review. Counsel also promised me an explanation for 3 terminals losing coverage in one morning." Matteo's voice stayed quiet. "Restore it." Martin looked at Nora, as if she had broken an unspoken rule by bringing someone powerful enough to make him listen. Her workstation had been stripped of personal items. But the work remained. 37 unread messages waited in the shared queue. A lender wanted proof of renewal. 2 adjusters had rejected incomplete photographs. A warehouse supervisor needed a code no one else knew how to correct. The department had called Nora removable labor. Yet, within 48 hours of removing her, the process had begun to choke. She opened the exception list. "These are not all fraud," she said. "Some are ordinary problems. No one else knows how to finish, because Martin routed every difficult file through me and kept the easy ones visible." Martin folded his arms. "You were assigned support work." Nora opened a renewal notice, carrying his signature. "Then why did you certify my conclusions as your own?" No one moved. Matteo watched Martin. And for the first time, he seemed to understand that the insult in the hallway was not one bad sentence. It was the structure of the department. Nora worked for 90 minutes. She corrected the code, freezing a terminal account, rebuilt a missing document index, and flagged a repair invoice, approved without the required survey. Each problem looked harmless alone. Together, they explained why the system failed when she disappeared. Matteo stood behind the glass wall, while executives tried to reassure him. A minute later, he came out and asked, "How long to stabilize the renewals?" "By 6. If no one changes the files while I'm working." Matteo turned to Martin. "No one touches her queue without her approval," Martin said. "She has no approval authority," Matteo replied. "She does for my accounts." It was not respect yet, but it was the first time his power moved in the same direction as her judgment. "At patru shaptesprezece." Nora found the first break in the pattern. A Doc 9 claim had been moved from her queue to an outside adjuster on a Friday night. The report used the same formatting as the missing Warehouse 14 packet, including a footer code, discontinued 8 months earlier. This template did not come from the adjuster, she said. Matteo pulled a chair beside her. "How do you know I wrote the memo retiring the footer?" Martin ignored it until an insurer rejected 2 claims. then copied my language into a department notice. She opened the archive history. Someone kept the old template because it already contained valid certification fields. They could replace the substance without rebuilding the approval structure. Matteo studied the screen. Can you trace it? Not from a copy. I need an untouched packet. Warehouse 14, or another claim made by the same person before they learned to clean the history. The search reduced 7 files to 2. In both. The outside adjuster had been selected through Adrian Vescari's office. Nora refused to call that proof. Approval showed access, not guilt. And Adrian's name appeared on hundreds of legitimate records. You are defending him, Matteo said. No, I am defending the difference between what we know and what you want to be true. His expression cooled. He is my cousin. Then your standards should be higher, not lower. After a long silence, Matteo asked, What would convince you? Nora pointed to the audit trail. A report locked before the event. It describes, tied to an approval, Adrian could not delegate. Inside, an original packet, no one edited. One impossible timestamp with a clean chain matters more than 10 suspicious copies. Add 6. Provisional coverage returned to the first terminal. Payroll could clear. And the lender withdrew its warning for 24 hours. The department relaxed, as if the crisis had passed. Nora knew she had only proved. The system depended on labor, no one credited to her. While she packed, a junior processor named Elise slipped a handwritten list beneath the folder. These are the files Martin told us never to send you, she whispered. He said you overcomplicated claims. Warehouse 14 sat at the top, followed by every claim tied to Adrian's adjusters. Before Nora could ask more, Martin called Elise across the floor. She left without looking back. Matteo waited until the elevator doors closed. Why would Martin keep those files from you? Nora folded the list into her pocket. Because someone knew I would slow the payments. Or Martin is the someone. Maybe. But Martin likes credit and avoids risk. This is bigger than him. The doors opened to the lobby, where Matteo's security chief stood beside a pale technician carrying a sealed evidence pouch. Inside was a damaged external drive recovered behind an archive server. It exported claim records last night, the chief said. Matteo looked at Nora. Can you read it? No. I am not a forensic technician. She examined the label instead. It carried the archive number for Warehouse 14. But this drive was not hidden last night. It was checked out 3 weeks ago. The chief handed Matteo the access sheet. The checkout signature belonged to Martin Hale. The authorization code beneath it belonged to Adrian Vescari. The authorization code did not prove Adrian had removed the packet, but it proved someone had used his office to reach it. Nora said that before Matteo could turn suspicion into a verdict, Martin Hale was still visible through the lobby glass when Matteo's security chief asked whether he should detain him. No, Nora said. Matteo looked at her. That was not your decision. Then make the wrong one yourself. She pointed to the access sheet. Martin checked out the drive. Adrian's code approved it. If you grab Martin now, whoever is above him deletes the rest and lets him carry the blame. Matteo's jaw tightened, but he waved the chief back. Watch him. Do not touch him. He had not accepted her authority, but he had accepted her logic. The drive went to a forensic contractor, while Matteo took her to Atlantic Freight's record center beneath the oldest terminal. A windowless floor of concrete and locked shelves. Two guards opened a steel door after Matteo placed his palm on a scanner. Nora stopped before crossing. Who logs your entry? Security. Who reviews security? My chief. Who reviews him? Matteo studied her. You think everyone should be checked? Unchecked systems create expensive surprises. He ordered that no one enter without Nora's approval, then handed her a temporary credential with her own name printed across it. After years of watching others sign her work, the site landed harder than expected. Nora began with Warehouse 14's index. Every legitimate claim left a trail notice of loss. Alarme confirmation. Inspection request. Survey assignment. Photographs. Estimate. Repair. Approval. Payment release. And final certification. The index listed 9 sections. The paper file contained 8. The post-loss inspection section had been replaced by one summary sheet, stamped as a certified duplicate. A duplicate can be legal, she said. This one is convenient. She showed Matteo the staple marks. The summary had 2 punctures. The surrounding pages had 4. The original section was thicker. They did not build a new packet. They hollowed out the old one. The records manager insisted the packet had arrived that way. Nora asked who received it and who authorized the duplicate. He looked toward Matteo before answering. Do not look at him, Nora said. Look at the page. He swallowed. Mr. Adrian's office sent the certification request through finance compliance. Matteo's expression went still. The manager began offering names, but Nora stopped him. He knows the route, not the decision. Pressure will make him fill gaps with whatever keeps him safe. Matteo dismissed him and turned on her. You keep protecting people who may have helped steal from me. I keep protecting the evidence from your temper. For the first time, anger showed plainly on his face. You signed a contract to help me. I signed to review claims, not confirm your favorite suspect. Nora folded her cardigan over a chair. You want Adrian guilty because betrayal by blood explains the scale. You want Martin guilty because he insulted me and gives you a simple employee to punish. Neither desire changes the chain. Matteo stepped closer. Close enough that she had to decide whether to yield space. She did not. And what do you want? He asked. An original packet. One clean impossibility. Then you can hate whoever it names. His gaze dropped to the temporary badge on her blouse, then returned to her face. You do not frighten easily. I frighten very easily. I just dislike giving fear management authority. They worked past midnight. Nora compared the secure archive with lender copies and insurer acknowledgements created before the dispute. She found inconsistencies, but refused to elevate them. One invoice had a different vendor suffix. One photograph had been resized. A survey request had been logged at 213A. M. Unusual but possible. Matteo grew impatient with every answer that ended in not enough. Nora opened a closed claim from Doc 9 because its index used the same retired footer code. The inspection section had been printed from a system version that should no longer have existed. She placed it beside Warehouse 14. Same margins. Same certification language. Same outside adjuster. Same finance approval channel. This was the practice run, Nora said. Doc 9 was smaller. No lender review. No trust. Consequence. No reason for anyone senior to inspect the chain. She turned the final page and found a maintenance stamp from the old archive printer. This machine was retired 9 months ago. Security confirmed it had been moved to a storage room controlled by finance compliance. Matteo reached for his phone. "Now," he asked. "Now we inspect the storage record." Not Adrian's house, Martin's office, or anyone's throat. A tired sound escaped him that might have been a laugh. "You assume I solve every problem with violence." "No. I assume people with power prefer the fastest tool they trust." The storage room had been cleared 3 days earlier. The printer was gone, along with 2 boxes listed as obsolete claim materials. Security footage showed a maintenance van leaving after midnight. But the camera missed the driver. Nora wanted the disposal manifest. All fun can be stolen. A records transfer still needs an internal destination. The manifest named a shredding vendor. But the destruction certificate had no weight entry, witness signature, or pickup seal. The boxes had supposedly been destroyed the morning after she first flagged Warehouse 14. Matteo read the page in silence. "Someone knew you had seen the problem. Someone knew Martin would ask me to look at it." Nora corrected. "The decision to remove the original came before my suspension." She returned to the index and noticed a faint notation beside Section 4, C2. Blue Archive. The current system used numbers, not colors. An old procedure explained that wet signature survey sections had once been stored separately in blue fireproof folders. Most had been merged into the main archive. But Warehouse 14's notation had never been cleared. Nora closed the binder. The packet was not destroyed. Matteo's eyes sharpened. "Where is it?" "Not here." But whoever replaced the copy may have missed the only person who still remembers what Blue Archive means. His phone rang before she could say more. Constance Val, the retired record supervisor who had created the legacy system, had called security from her kitchen. Matteo listened, then looked at Nora. Her house was broken into 20 minutes ago. Nora picked up her coat. "Then they know we found the notation." Constance Vale's kitchen window had been forced open, but the room looked almost untouched. A chair stood crooked beside the table. One cabinet door hung open, and paper dust marked a path toward the study. Constance, 71, and furious, sat in a wool coat while a paramedic checked her. "They did not come for jewelry," she said. "They went straight to my old records box." Nora crouched beside the scattered folders without touching them. What was inside? Retirement papers, procedure manuals, and the Blue Archive transfer list. "I kept copies because your people never value institutional memory until they need it." Matteo asked whether the intruder had hurt her. "They frightened my cat and broke a good window. Both offenses are serious." The transfer list was gone, but carbon sheets remained beneath the missing page. Nora lifted one toward the lamp and saw faint pressure marks. She asked Matteo's technician to photograph it under angled light instead of guessing. The image revealed a destination, Pier 6 Annex. Constance remembered it as a temporary records room used during renovation. It now housed Atlantic Freight's medical benefits office, which explained why no current claim index mentioned it. Matteo wanted to leave immediately. Nora stopped him at the door. "If they broke in 20 minutes ago, they expect us to run toward the address they left behind. You think it is a trap? I think urgency is useful to whoever controls it." She asked whether blue folders had backup copies. Constance showed them the old rule. Any claim affecting collateral had one working original and one lender-certified duplicate, with the duplicate stored in the insurer's custody room. Warehouse 14 had affected collateral. The annex may hold the original, Nora said. But the authenticated twin should still be with the insurer. It was 1:36 in the morning. Matteo's attorney said the custody room would not open without a court order or the insurer's cooperation. Nora only needed enough credibility to stop the $18 million payment until morning. She called Elise, obtained the lender acknowledgement number, and contacted the insurer's emergency desk. The representative refused a preservation hold because Nora lacked executive authority. Matteo reached for the phone. Nora covered the receiver. "Do not threaten them. I was going to explain. Your explanations usually arrive with security." Nora gave the representative the acknowledgement number, retired footer code, and missing section reference. She explained that the circulating copy could not be trusted and that the lender-certified duplicate might preserve the original sequence. The representative still needed an authorized executive. Nora handed Matteo the phone. "Confirm the hold." Nothing else. He followed the instruction. 11 minutes later, the insurer suspended payment until an examiner could open the custody room at 7. Adrian no longer controlled the first deadline. Matteo ended the call and studied Nora as if the room had changed around her. "My attorneys spent 6 hours trying to freeze that payment. They argued fraud without a document. The insurer trusted. You did it with one acknowledgement number. I did it with their procedure." Constance nodded. "That is what people call expertise when the person using it has an expensive title." Matteo looked back at Nora. "You kept the terminal insured yesterday. You stopped the payment tonight. What else has my organization been depending on without knowing your name? More than you should be comfortable admitting." They reached Pier 6 before dawn. But Matteo sent an advance team and waited for Nora's assessment before entering. The annex showed no forced access. Medical benefit files filled the front shelves, while old claim boxes stood behind a locked partition. The blue index drawer was empty. Yet a clean gap in the dust showed one folder had been removed recently. Nora traced the labels and found that Warehouse 14 shared a transfer number with Doc 9. They removed the obvious folder. She said, "They may not know the duplicate was cross-filed under the lender account." The lender box remained on the lowest shelf. A guard reached for it, and Nora stopped him. "Gloves. Photograph the seal first." Matteo repeated the order. The seal was intact, but the box held only a cover sheet and a withdrawal notice signed by Martin Hale 3 weeks earlier. The notice cited a finance review and carried Adrian's authorization code. Martin had physically withdrawn both the damaged drive and the lender duplicate. Adrian's office had approved both actions. It strengthened the access chain. But they still lacked the impossible timestamp. A metal shelf scraped behind Nora. Matteo caught her arm and pulled her aside as an unsecured archive box crashed where she had been standing. Papers scattered across the concrete. Nora jerked away, and he released her immediately. "Are you hurt?" "No." One bracket had been loosened. Someone had prepared the room to punish whoever searched it. Matteo's expression hardened, but Nora stopped the order forming in his face. "Secure the room. Do not chase anyone until we know who had access." He held her gaze, then gave exactly that command. A shallow cut crossed the back of Nora's hand. Matteo reached toward her, stopped, and asked, "May I?" She nodded. He cleaned the cut with a first aid kit, careful not to hold her wrist after she shifted. The intimacy came from restraint, not proximity. He did not use danger to erase her conditions. "You were right about the annex," he said. "Partly. We still came. Because you found a safer reason." He taped the gauze in place. "I am learning the distinction." Among the scattered papers, Nora noticed a sheet printed on the retired archive machine. It was a transmittal receipt showing that an authenticated claim section had been delivered to the insurer's custody room at 8:03 on the morning of the fire. The alarm had sounded at 8:20. She slid the receipt into an evidence sleeve. "This does not prove the inspection was completed before the fire," she said, "but it proves someone delivered a sealed claim section 17 minutes before the loss existed." Matteo looked at the timestamp. "Is that enough?" "Enough to force the insurer to open the custody room under witness. Enough to stop Adrian from calling this a clerical mistake." Dawn spread across the harbor as Nora closed the sleeve. At 7, we find out whether the original packet survived. Matteo opened the annex door and waited until she chose to walk through first. At 7, sharp, the insurer opened the custody room with Nora, Matteo, 2 attorneys, and an independent examiner watching through the glass. The Warehouse 14 duplicate sat inside a sealed evidence box. Nora made the examiner record the seal number and every witness before anyone touched it. Matteo stayed silent. The examiner cut the seal and turned to the inspection section. The first page carried the sequence Nora had predicted. The post-loss report had been signed and locked at 8:03, while the verified alarm record showed the fire beginning at 8:20. 17 minutes. The room changed around that number. The original packet named the outside adjuster, selected by Adrian's office, and included a finance routing code that could not be delegated below the CFO level. It did not prove Adrian had planned the fire, but it proved someone using his authority had prepared the claim before the loss. The examiner compared it with Martin's circulating copy. 3 pages were missing. One showed the early delivery time. One linked the adjuster to Adrian's approval channel. The third carried an estimate for damage that had not yet occurred. "Freeze the payment," Nora said. The insurer's representative looked at Matteo. "She is making the recommendation." The hold went under her name for 11 seconds. She was finally heard. Then, every screen in the room flashed with an internal alert. A confidential memo had gone to Atlantic Freight's board, the insurer, and 3 lenders. It accused Nora of manipulating claim records through her brother's vendor credentials and using her marriage agreement with Matteo to conceal a financial relationship. Attached were login records bearing her employee ID and a statement supposedly written by Nora admitting she had altered the Warehouse 14 sequence. The signature came from an old personnel form. Matteo read the first page without expression. His security chief received a second message and moved toward Nora. Her credential accessed the finance archive at 3:12 this morning. "That's impossible," Nora said. "I was with all of you." Adrian entered before anyone invited him, dressed as if the emergency had been scheduled for his convenience. Then perhaps the badge was not the only thing she shared. He said, "Matteo, step away from her. This woman has compromised our files and now appears inside the one room that can destroy the family." Nora watched Adrian instead of the accusation. He had arrived too quickly. He also called the packet dangerous. Although no one outside the witnesses knew what was inside. "How did you know we found the original?" she asked. Adrian did not look at her. The insurer notified the trustees. They notified the payment hold. They did not identify the packet. Matteo's eyes shifted toward his cousin. Adrian recovered smoothly. "You are playing with wording while the evidence names you." Nora held out her hand for the login report. The security chief hesitated until Matteo nodded. The record showed Nora's employee number but no badge serial. It came through an overnight migration account. "This is not my badge," she said. "It is my identity, typed into a field." Adrian smiled. A convenient distinction. A required one. She pointed to the authentication line. A physical entry would show a badge serial and door reader. "This shows a service credential with my name added after access." Whoever wrote the alert expected everyone to react to the label before reading the method. The security chief checked the line and went quiet. Adrian turned to Matteo. Even if she did not enter the archive, she controlled every step of this review. She chose the files, shaped the theory, and convinced you to place family operations in the hands of a junior analyst whose brother profited from the repairs. Matteo looked at Nora. The hesitation lasted less than a second. But she saw it. Blood pulled one way. Her work pulled the other. "Give me the packet," he said. Nora's fingers tightened around the evidence sleeve. "Why?" "Because this has moved beyond claims review. It was beyond claims review before you learned my name. I need it secured. It is secured with the examiner under the insurer's chain." His voice lowered. "Nora." Everyone heard the old structure returning. Her judgment was useful until it challenged his control. She placed the sleeve on the examiner's table. "Not in Matteo's hand. The original remains here. No private removal. No family custody. No undocumented copy." Matteo's face hardened. "You are forgetting the agreement." "No. I am remembering every condition you signed." Adrian watched. He did not need to prove Nora guilty. He only needed Matteo to treat her like property in front of the people whose trust she had earned. The insurer suspended Nora's participation, pending review of the false memo. Matteo ordered his chief to trace the service account. But the damage spread. Lenders paused. Negotiations. Board members demanded Nora be removed from all Atlantic freight systems. Martin Hale sent a statement claiming she had pressured him to hide her brother's involvement. Elise stopped answering her phone. By 9, Nora's access had vanished again. This time under Matteo's authority, they faced each other in an empty conference room. "I did not call you guilty," Matteo said. "You called me controllable. I asked for the packet. After Adrian put my name on a lie, you reached for the evidence, instead of asking how he had access to my identity." Matteo rubbed a hand over his face. 300 families, my terminals, and the trust hearing are tied to a document everyone will claim you manipulated. Then, authenticate it without me. I need your explanation. You need my obedience to make my explanation comfortable. He stopped at the distance she had taught him to respect. "What do you want me to do?" "Decide whether you trust the process you asked me to build." Nora removed the temporary credential bearing her name and placed it on the table. "If you do, restore my access and let me follow the service account. If you do not, release me now." Matteo looked at the badge, then at the harbor. When he answered, the pause told her he had chosen caution over her until the login is verified. "You are off the system." Nora nodded once. "Then I am off the marriage too." She walked to the door before his security could decide whether to move. Matteo said her name, but she turned only long enough to make the cost clear. "You wanted the woman who could prove the truth." "Matteo, you do not get to keep her. After deciding her word is the first thing you can suspend." Nora left Atlantic Freight without a guard. "Head driver, or the temporary badge that had briefly made people pronounce her name correctly. By the time she reached the sidewalk, Martin Hale's statement had reached the insurer's review portal, and 2 reporters were waiting across the street. She ignored them, walked 3 blocks, and called Rebecca Sloan, the employment attorney who had once warned her that being indispensable without authority was another form of exposure. Rebecca met her near the courthouse. Start with the contract. Nora placed the marriage agreement on the table. Rebecca read every handwritten condition. Can I walk away? Nora asked. Yes. He suspended the access the agreement required, and your copied signature can be separated from the fraud. We can prove the source form predates the guarantee. And Evan, your brother, is an adult. If he helps them, he answers for it. You are not required to keep paying for his mistakes. Rebecca had also received an offer from North Harbor Catastrophe Review in Boston. Their director wanted Nora as assistant director of complex loss review, with higher pay, temporary housing, counsel, and authority to sign her own findings. A train left at 6:40 that evening. Nora stared at the offer. It was not rescue disguised as another cage. It was a real job. In her field. Under her name. You do not owe Baltimore the rest of your life, because other people built careers on your reliability, Rebecca said. Nora signed. At 4. Matteo arrived alone. He carried Nora's passport, apartment keys, personal phone, bank card, and the marriage contract inside a plain envelope. Rebecca remained at the next table while he sat across from Nora. The service account was created through finance compliance, he said. Adrian's deputy approved it. Your name was inserted after the export. Nora did not reach for the envelope. So I was telling the truth? Yes. And you suspended me anyway? Yes. He did not soften the word. I chose control because it was familiar. I told myself I was protecting the evidence. I was protecting myself from trusting someone I could not command. He slid the contract across the table. His signature had been crossed out, witnessed, and accompanied by a formal release. The marriage agreement is dissolved. The trust can judge me without using you. Nora checked every document. Nothing was missing. What happens to my brother? My people found him outside Annapolis. He took money to introduce Martin to a repair vendor. But he did not know the claim was prepared before the fire. He is with a lawyer. No one in my organization will touch him. What the authorities do is not mine to stop. It was the first answer about Evan that did not make Nora responsible for saving him. Matteo placed a train ticket beside the envelope. Boston. There will be no one on the train, at the station, or following your phone. You still need the packet explained at the hearing, she said. Yes. You have less than a day. Yes. And you are letting me leave. Matteo met her eyes. I am not letting you do anything. I am acknowledging that the decision is yours. The sentence did not erase the contract or his suspicion. It proved he finally understood the line he had crossed. Nora folded the release. Goodbye. Matteo. His face tightened, but he did not bargain. Goodbye. Nora. At Penn Station. Rebecca waited until Nora passed security. Nora boarded with one suitcase, her mother's watch, and a future that did not depend on the Vescari family surviving Monday. The train pulled away at 6:40. Nora opened her employment packet and read the title again. Assistant Director. She should have felt only relief. Instead, she kept thinking about the original claim packet. the 17-minute impossibility, and the false memo that would let Adrian dismiss every junior employee who had touched the chain. At 7:12. Her phone displayed an automated notice from the insurer. Atlantic Freight's terminal coverage would remain frozen pending the trust hearing. A second message came from Elise, a photograph of a benefits bulletin posted near payroll. If coverage was not restored by Monday, the company health plan, tied to terminal operations, would enter emergency suspension. 312 families had 48 hours before scheduled treatments. Prescriptions and dependent coverage were delayed. Elise had written, "Martin told us not to contact you. I am sorry. I kept one thing he missed." Nora called her. Elise answered from a hospital parking garage. "My father starts treatment Tuesday." She said, "Adrian's people told Martin the freeze would last a week, but the union says it could take months." "What did you keep?" Nora asked. "The weekend archive rotation sheet. It shows where duplicate lender packets are staged before destruction. Warehouse 14 was moved twice. The insurer has the authenticated packet, but the internal routing copy with the approval initials is still in Atlantic Freight's old bond room. Martin ordered me to mark it destroyed. Do not touch it," Nora said. "Photograph the location entry. Send it to Rebecca, and leave the building." "Are you coming back?" Nora closed her eyes. "I do not know." She did know what leaving meant. Adrian would take control, erase the internal approval trail, blame Nora, and use hundreds of workers as pressure against the council. That was not justice. It was surrendering the truth to a man who had counted on everyone treating invisible labor as disposable. Nora could keep traveling. She had money, counsel, Ayob, and proof that her name had been forged. No contract pulled her backward. No guard stood between her and Boston. The choice was finally clean. At the next stop, Nora lifted her suitcase from the rack. She called Rebecca first. "I am not returning as Matteo's wife." "Good," Rebecca said. "What are you returning?" As Nora stepped onto the platform as the doors opened, the analyst, whose report they tried to bury, her second call went to Matteo. He answered on the first ring but said nothing. "Do not send a car," Nora told him. "Do not restore my access to announce my return, or tell the council I am helping you. Understood? I need the old bond room preserved under independent witness. Elise protected without being detained, and the insurer's examiner present before anyone opens the routing copy." A pause followed. This time it was not resistance. "What else?" Matteo asked. Nora watched the Boston train leave without her. "A seat at the hearing under my own name." Matteo did not send a car. He sent Rebecca the preservation order, the insurer's examiner, and instructions that no Vescari employee could enter the old bond room without Nora's approval. When Nora returned, Elise waited with her father and a union representative. Not a security detail. Nora called him after reading the order. "You followed every condition. You made them clear. That has not stopped you before." "No," he said. "It should have." The old bond room opened at 1018, Sunday night, under 5 cameras and 6 signatures. A neutral locksmith cut the secondary lock, while Nora and the examiner watched. Elise's rotation sheet led them to a gray carton marked Harbor National. Collateral Group C, 2. Inside was the routing section removed from Warehouse 14's packet. Nora checked the seal. Notation, page count, and witness log. It belonged to the same claim preserved by the insurer. Not a second proof, but the missing chain showing who had moved the original through Atlantic freight. The pages carried the same 803 timestamp as the insurer's copy, and 2 approval initials beneath the outside adjuster assignment. One belonged to Martin Hale. The other matched Adrian Vescari's finance authorization. The field had been locked before the alarm sounded at 8:20. Nora explained it plainly. A post-loss inspection cannot be routed. Approved and delivered before the loss exists. The lender, assuré, and internal records preserve the same sequence. Someone prepared the claim first and waited for the damage to catch up. Matteo arrived after the examiner authenticated the section. He remained outside the evidence area until Nora invited him in. "What do you see?" he asked. Nora pointed to Adrian's initials. "Access, preparation, and control of the approval path. The packet proves the claim existed before the alarm. Adrian's authority moved it. Martin removed the pages after I noticed the sequence." Matteo looked at the file. "My organization trusted the men who signed over the woman who understood it." Nora closed the carton. "Your organization trusted titles?" He nodded. "Including me." At 8:52, Monday morning, Adrian moved to exclude Nora from the trust hearing. He called her a terminated junior employee and former contractual spouse whose testimony had been shaped by Matteo. Rebecca placed the dissolution agreement on the table. The contract had ended before Nora returned. Boston's signed offer proved she had a real exit. The examiner confirmed Nora had not controlled the packet after authentication. The hearing began at 10 in a boardroom overlooking the harbor. Adrian sat beneath the Vescari crest. Martin occupied a chair near counsel, pale and sweating. The insurer, lenders, terminal directors, union representatives, and counsel filled every seat. A guard blocked Nora at the door. Trustees and authorized witnesses only. Adrian's voice carried from inside. "She has neither status. Matteo Rose." He did not call Nora his wife or claim family privilege. He opened the door and said, "Nora Whitaker is the claims analyst who identified the sequence, preserved the insurer's hold, and authenticated the original packet. Her report is hers. You will hear her." The guard stepped aside. Matteo returned to his seat and left the open place at the table for Nora to choose. She set the gray packet before the examiner. "Not, Matteo." Adrian smiled. "Miss Whitaker organizes files. She is not an executive, investigator, or trustee." Nora sat. "That is fortunate. Executives approved this. Investigators missed it. And a trustee is hoping no one reads the time." She began with 1 page. The inspection had been signed, routed, and delivered at 8:03. The verified alarm began at 8:20. The lender, assuré, and internal sections preserved the same sequence. The finance approval could only come through Adrian's office. Martin had checked out the drive and removed the lender duplicate 3 weeks earlier. Nora used those facts to explain the packet's access path. Adrian interrupted. "My code appears on hundreds of files." "Correct," Nora said. "That is why the code alone is not proof." She turned the routing page toward him. "Did your office approve outside adjusters for warehouse?" 14. "Yes." "Could Martin approve one without finance compliance?" "No." "Could a junior analyst alter the lender-certified copy after insurer custody?" "No." "Could a post-loss inspection be completed before the alarm?" Adrian paused. Clocks can be wrong. The examiner answered, not 3 independently retained records with matching sequence controls. Nora continued, then, the claim was prepared before the loss and moved through an approval path controlled by your office. Adrian accused Martin of acting alone. Martin broke first. He told me the trust would transfer anyway. Martin said. He said no one would compare the old packet once Nora was removed. Adrian turned on him, and the room saw the hierarchy beneath the fraud. The insurer froze the $18 million payment. Harbor National suspended Adrian's authority. The council removed him as successor trustee and barred him from every financial system pending investigation. Matteo abstained because the hearing concerned his own control. The deciding vote came after one question. Ms. Whitaker, do you recommend restoring terminal coverage? The old room would have looked at Martin. This room waited for her. Restore provisional coverage. Nora said, but only under independent claim review, protected staff access, and a hold on every vendor approved through the compromised channel. The insurer accepted all 3 conditions. 312 families kept their coverage. Elise's father kept his Tuesday appointment. Martin's name remained on the brass plate outside the claims department. But no one asked him what should happen next when the hearing adjourned. Council members gathered around Nora with questions. Matteo did not interrupt or take credit. Only after the room emptied did he approach. You saved the terminals after I gave you every reason to leave. Nora fastened her coat. I protected the people Adrian treated as leverage. Do not confuse that with forgiving you. I do not. He placed 2 documents on the table. One confirmed the contract's dissolution. The other proposed an independent office with authority beyond any department head. Nora read the title, then looked at him. Are you ready to transfer power, Matteo? Or did you only need me powerful for one morning? Matteo opened the appointment document and turned it so Nora could read every line. Independent Risk and Claims Review would report to the full council. Not to him. Nora would hold a permanent voting seat. Direct archive access. Authority to freeze any claim or vendor payment above $1 million. And the right to hire her own analysts. Her findings could not be removed or rewritten under another executive's name. Neither marriage nor disagreement with Matteo could revoke that authority after council confirmation. Who wrote this? Nora asked. Rebecca revised it. I asked her to make it impossible for me to interfere. Nora looked toward the harbor. That sounds less like trust than a restraint system. For a man who confused control with protection, restraint is a reasonable beginning. The council reconvened that afternoon. Adrian's accounts were frozen, his trustee rights revoked, and the packet sent to outside counsel and investigators. Martin Hale was dismissed for removing Nora's pages, copying her findings. Elise and the processors who cooperated received protection against retaliation. Evan admitted introducing Martin to the repair vendor and allowing Nora's signature file to be used. Nora refused Matteo's offer to make the consequences disappear. Evan entered a cooperation agreement and began repayment. For the first time, Nora did not stand between her brother and his choices. Before the vote, Matteo Rose, I misjudged Ms. Whitaker because I trusted status and family position over the person doing the work. I used her crisis to secure my position, suspended her when her judgment became uncomfortable, and treated access to her skill as if it were access to her. Those decisions belong to me. He did not hide behind Adrian's betrayal. This appointment is not compensation or a condition of any personal relationship. It is authority she earned before this family knew her name. Then he sat down. Nora presented her terms. Every analyst whose work appeared in a claim log would retain authorship. Any employee could flag a compromised chain without reporting through the manager implicated by it. Her office would review the insurer, lenders, and union accounts, and it could stop Matteo's own transactions. One council member objected that no chairman should face a junior employee's veto. Nora answered, "Then do not appoint a junior employee. Appoint the director you need." The motion passed. Matteo abstained because the vote transferred power away from him. A week later, a brass plate appeared beside the council chamber. Nora Whitaker, Director of Independent Risk and Claims Review. Nora gave the largest office to her team, promoted Elise into a protected senior analyst role, and returned the first report, missing a clerk's name. Put it back. The work keeps its owner now. Within a month, full coverage returned. Emergency lender restrictions lifted, and the terminal families kept their health plan. The system survived because the woman everyone had kept outside the room finally had authority to redesign the door. Matteo did not ask Nora to move into his house. He sent no jewelry and no second contract. 3 weeks after the hearing, he called her office. "Would you have dinner with me Friday?" Nora leaned back. "Is this business?" "Joe." "Will security sit nearby?" "Only if you request it." "Will you accept no without consequence?" A pause carried the ghost of the man who once believed every answer could be managed. "Yes." Nora smiled. "Then ask again." "Nora, would you have dinner with me Friday 7:30? I choose the table." Dinner became another dinner. Then late coffee and walks along the harbor. Matteo told her about the brother who had sold family information and the years he had spent turning betrayal into control. Nora admitted that being needed had once felt so close to being loved that she confused the two. Neither confession erased the past, but both changed what came next. Matteo learned to ask before sending help. Nora learned that accepting care did not require surrendering authority. When he challenged one of her claim holds, he came with the file instead of an order. When she refused to release it, he asked, "Show me what I missed." 2 months later, Matteo waited outside Nora's apartment without guards or a key. His white sleeves were rolled back. Instead of a ring, he placed one folded page on her table. No ownership, no leverage, no punishment for leaving, no interference with her work, and no decision made in her name without consent. "This does not guarantee I stay," Nora said. "Nothing should. I am asking to be chosen." Nora stepped closer. "You do not get the woman who signed under pressure. You get the woman who can stop your money and leave when respect disappears. That is the only woman I want." She took his hand. "Stay tonight." Matteo remained still. "Are you sure I am free to change my mind?" "That is why it matters." Warm light spread across bedding. Nora lay against the pillows in an ivory satin nightgown, her chestnut hair loose. Matteo leaned over her with one arm braced beside her, his open collar revealing a tattoo. He kept his weight away and stopped inches from her face. Nora touched his jaw. "Still? Yes, yes." She drew him closer. The kiss belonged to neither contract nor debt. It began because she chose it. Months later, the gray packet remained sealed in Nora's archive as a reminder of what one impossible timestamp had exposed. Adrian faced the consequences of his conspiracy. Martin's replacement began every review by naming the analysts who built it. Evan worked, repaid, and stopped calling Nora to erase his mistakes. Matteo remained chairman, but no payment above $1 million moved without Nora's office, including his. At the next annual council meeting, a director tried to speak over her. Matteo did not answer for Nora. He only said, "The decision is hers." Nora finished her sentence, cast her vote, and watched the room wait. She had entered Matteo's world as a forged signature, a useful wife, and a woman powerful men believed could be managed. She remained because she had been free to leave, because innocent families deserved the truth, and because love without autonomy was only another contract. When Matteo reached for her hand beneath the council table, he did not close his fingers until she turned her palm upward. Nora chose him then, as she chose her work, her name, and her future, without debt, without fear, and without surrender. Would you return to save a system that never valued you, or let it collapse after you finally earned the right to walk away?